can't get this damn smile off my face.
Why is that?
Oh, no reason. I don't know. I mean, it was just a good week. It was just a good week. That's all it was. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 15 now, I believe, of the D-League podcast. And we have concluded the D-League decade season, regular season. Man, that flew by. No way we're already done with that.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It flew by. It always does. Football season, every year, regardless of fantasy, whether it be college, NFL, I feel like it just flies by way too fast and getting into the winter months. And life just gets a little worse in the winter when there's no football on. It's cold, snowing outside. So we got to cherish it while we have it. We got the playoffs coming up for our league. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah, Christmas is right around the corner. I can't believe we're halfway through December. I mean, it's going to be 2024 in like 2 weeks. Like that's ridiculous.
That literally doesn't sound real. Like writing that down for the first time is going to feel very surreal, I think.
It's crazy. It is flying by. But anyways, let's jump right into it. This should be a little bit of a shorter episode. No guest slot this week. We did have a little segment that we alluded to last week, but we decided we want to hold off on that until the very, very end of the season rather than just the end of the regular season. So stay tuned for that here in a few weeks. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it. We always start off with Lions football, and these last few weeks, man, it's hurt to start off with Lions football. Last week, they somehow looked worse against the Bears last week than they did a few weeks ago, and they somehow won the game a few weeks ago. I don't know how they did. They should have never won that game, and they somehow looked worse last week. Like, any thoughts on the Lions? I don't even know what to say.
It is disappointing. I see it on Twitter all the time. There's people that are split. You got people like us who are realists, and you can see, I mean, anytime you watch the Lions the last couple of weeks, you can see they're not the same team that they were earlier in the season. Then you got other fans that are trying to say that like we're pessimistic and shouldn't be complaining about a team that's 9-4 now, leading the division, which, very grateful for. We haven't seen the Lions team this good, but it really does feel like they are underperforming. I mean, there's no reason they should have looked as bad as they did against the Bears, the Packers. I mean, hell, even the Saints, if you take out the first 7.5 minutes of that game, it feels like they've been regressing. The O-line can't stay healthy. I think that's been one of the biggest things. And then our defense has not been good, but to be honest with you, our defense hasn't been good, but I think a lot of it comes back in the offense. Like so many turnovers, the defense is just set up for failure. When your offense is turning the ball over 3-4 times a game, I mean, you're going to need like the 85 Bears defense or something to win games playing like that. But
yeah, it's hard, and it's easy to complain about injuries. I mean, you look at the O-line, can't stay healthy. You look at the defense. I mean, you lose one of your best corners, you lose your best safety, and just injuries everywhere else. I mean, you don't have a guy opposite of Hutch that can rush the passer with Houston out, and it's like, it's easy to complain about that. It's funny. I always talk to my buddy CJ, who's a big Browns fan, and they've lost like 3 starting offensive linemen. Yeah. They've gone through 4 quarterbacks. They've lost their starting running back, who's probably a top 5, if not 3 running back in the league. They're out one of their receivers, and then their defense is busted up too. So it's funny, like it's easy to complain about injuries, but every team goes through that, right? Like every team has injuries.
I actually saw a tweet that had the Browns, like their season ending injuries, and there was like 6 on offense, 7 on defense, and they still have like a top 3 defense in the league. And still, as of now, I'm pretty sure are in the playoffs in the AFC, which, that's incredible. You think of where the season would be if even just like a couple people stayed healthy, like Nick Chubb or Watson. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, everyone's going to have injuries this late in the year, but injuries aside, there's no excuse for them to be performing as bad as they have been.
I like that you brought up that the defense sucks. The defense sucks. Yeah, there's no way around it. But they are being put in just terrible positions. And it's funny, Goff went on like that streak of, I don't even know how many pass attempts it was without a pick. Yeah. And he is a turnover machine now. Picks, fumbles, you name it, he's doing it. And it's like, man, it's like so hard to... like the defense is being put in terrible spots.
Like Goff isn't going to be a huge playmaker. If he has a good O-line and time to throw, he's going to be a great quarterback, good enough to win most games. But with an injured O-line, he's put under pressure a lot, and he's a completely different quarterback when he has to throw under pressure, and then that leads to the turnovers, leads to the defense being set up in poor position. So I think it all just boils down to our O-line not being able to stay healthy. And I mean, shit, like we're still going to make the playoffs even as like a wild card, but you know, a month ago to 2 months ago, like I thought this team was making a run for the NFC Championship game, and now I don't think they can win a playoff game playing like this. Like if we get placed up against like the Rams round 1, imagine Stafford comes into Detroit and just lights us up for our first home playoff game in 30 plus years. Man, that would be heartbroken.
Probably will happen. I still think we win the division, to be honest. With the Packers losing, in prime time the other night, that was huge. I think if they win that, they have a lot of momentum, especially with a couple tough games for the Lions coming up. So I do still think we win the division, and I mean, we'll see. Who knows? It depends on which team shows up. Like we had the Bears game, and then the Packers game, and then the next game against New Orleans, like we came out looking like we did in the first half of the season. So we'll see what team shows up the rest of the year, and it'll really be a tell-all as we head into the playoffs. But with that said, let's jump into fantasy. It was a crazy week of games. We can start it off with, probably a few that didn't matter as much as a couple others. With your game, the Golden State Warriors, 81, Clark Bar's football team, 87. Yeah.
87. Yep. Yeah, it was a good win by my squad. It doesn't really mean much, I guess, in terms of I got to 10 wins this year in the regular season. That looks good on paper, better than 9 wins. But really sucks. I lost Herbert this week. He's going to be out for the year. So I'm catching some of that injury bug that I've seemed to avoid this whole year. Not something you want to see going into playoffs, but still got the first round bye. Warriors, on the other hand, like this game meant nothing. Let's just skip to the next one.
Yeah. Next one we'll go with Lang's football team 74 against Turn Your Head and Golf 97. Ashton, I don't know. He started Aaron Jones, and I don't know what the situation was. Was he ruled out before the game, or did he play early on and like get re-injured? I didn't watch the start of the game, but I saw Ashton started him and he was out. So I'm not 100% sure what went on there. But anyways, it was the lowest score, I think, from Ashton all year was 74 or close to it, if not the lowest. And a good win for Trent. That win for Trent locked up the 3 seed in the playoffs moving forward. So a pretty good win for Trent, and he's going to have home field advantage in round 1 and who knows, maybe in the championship if he makes it that far too. So good win for Trent. And anything else about that game?
No, like you said, didn't really mean much besides seeding. Trent locked himself up a 3-point advantage for round 1. So bravo to you, Trent.
Yeah. Next one, we'll go with the 2 games that had an effect on the Maroon division. We'll start with the Denver Dust Balls scoring 99 against the Southside Silly Sliders, putting up the 156. A crazy week from Justin. In a week that meant absolutely nothing to him. It meant nothing, and he went out and he put on his best performance of the season. There's one person in the league that benefited from that, and you're looking at him. It was me. Justin, I just want to say thank you. I knew you could do it. When we were talking before the week, you seemed confident. I was confident that you could do it, and you went out and you did it. So thank you. You helped me sneak in, and for that, I am forever grateful.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think you said it on last week's pod, but the text you sent Justin was just awesome. It was hilarious, and his team really took it to heart, and they went out and put on their best performance all year. Sucks you couldn't get a couple more of those performances earlier in the year, Justin, but at least he was able to play spoiler, and Mudge is now in the ladder, and because of that, this next game had even more implications. The Ogama Do You Jobbers with 88 against the Circus with 74. I mean, just bravo to you. I mean, we've been saying it all year on this pod, and go back, clip it all you want, but we've been hoping you'd find a way to sneak into the playoffs. I mean, you started off rough. Your points against has just been atrocious, like through the roof. But I mean, you strung together some wins late in the season, got some help from a couple other teams losing, and I mean, you snuck in as a 6th seed. So I'm happy to see you in the playoffs, and great job this week.
Yeah, thank you. And it's funny. I think what goes around comes around. It was a really, really rough start to the season with some of my matchups. And I think back to like week 4 or 5 or whatever it was where I played Ashton and I put up 150 and he put up 170. And after that week, I'm like, man, I am toast. Like I'm done.
Yeah.
And now in a week where it matters most, where I have to get a win to get in, Mark puts up 74 against me. I put up 88. Like that's not a great score, and I got it done. So, what goes around comes around. The points against are tough, but this time finally it did work in my favor, and we're in. So looking forward to the postseason here, and I'll tell you what, the guys in the locker room, they're ready to go.
They're ready over there in Ogama. But finally, let's wrap it up with our game of the week. The Fort Wayne Mad Ants taking on the Crumb Bum, in a winner-take-all matchup. Loser, your season's over. And the Mad Ants, I mean, this game delivered. The Mad Ants won by 0.46 points against the Crumb Bums. It came down to Monday night. I mean, what a win by the Mad Ants, a team that we've been hailing as the most inconsistent team all year, strings together some wins late in the season to sneak into the playoffs. And, I mean, the game of the week delivered for sure.
Insane game, crazy game. And it's funny because I mean, you look at the ESPN projections and like they don't really mean anything, right? But you just take a peek and like with 3 minutes to go in that game, I think the Packers were actually driving, but it was like Crumb Bums 99%, Fort Wayne Mad Ants 1%. And then Jordan Love throws that touchdown in the back of the end zone, but it gets knocked out. They wave it incomplete. And then next play comes back, throws a pass to the sideline. And I don't remember who it was that caught it, but like great catch, barely got it in. And like it went from 99% Chuck to 99% Jake, and it was just funny how it turned like that. And like you said, it was the game of the week, and it delivered. So congrats, Jake, on making the playoffs. Really excited to see what your team's gonna do. They could make a run and win it all. And I'm just going to put Jake on the spot here because he texted me after I was texting him. I said, like, congrats on getting in. He's like, well, it's a win-win for me because now I can bitch about the 3-point buffer in the first round of the playoff when Mark beats me by 28 instead of 25. I started laughing. I'm like, yep, that's the most Jake thing I've ever heard. But I don't know. His team can make a run, and so I'm curious to see what they can do.
Definitely. But I guess let's kick it off with our power rankings at the end of the season. Maybe we can keep doing this next week, but I think this is a good spot for the end of the season power rankings. Kick it off. We got number 1. No surprise. He fell for a little bit, I think, for 1 week, but Langs football team headed into the playoffs. I mean, this is the team to beat. Number 2, myself, Clark Barr's football team, become the second team to beat. My team, I think they stack up pretty well with Lang's football team. I'll still give the edge to him, but I think those are the top 2 teams in the league. And then we have a new number 3, Turn Your Head in Golf, just knocking off number 1 actually last week. Down week, we're not going to count it against Ashton, but Trent, number 3, heading into the playoffs. How you feel about those top 3?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's correct. And actually, just doing this segment made me think of something. Preseason, there was an ESPN projection that projected where everyone would finish. So I just pulled that up here on my screen to take a look at where everyone compares. And so Ashton, at the start of the year, was projected to finish 3. He ended up at 1. And then your team was projected to finish at 4. And you ended up as 2. So both beat your projection.
Okay.
Trent was actually projected 1. He was projected as the number 1 team. Yeah, at the start of the season. He finishes at the 3, so down 2 spots. But I think this top 3 is right. And I think Trent had a pretty strong finish to the season and has a lot of momentum going into the playoffs here.
Yeah, definitely. Then we'll move on to number 4. We got the Circus moving down a spot. And number 5, we got the Mad Ants coming up 2 spots to number 5. And rounding out our top 6, we have the Ogama Do You Jobbers. The top 6 teams, these are all the teams in the playoffs. I think it's pretty accurately ranked. I think really any of these teams can beat the other one on any given week. We've seen all these teams put up massive performances throughout the year. And, this is going to be a fun playoffs. We haven't mentioned it yet, but this is actually 6 teams that have never won the championship. They've never put their hands on the D-League trophy as a champion, at least. Maybe they touched it accidentally, but as a champion. And I'm excited for the playoffs this year. I'm excited to get some new blood, someone new holding that trophy up at the end of the year.
Yeah, it is exciting. And real quick, I just want to go through 4, 5, and 6 here with their preseason. So Mark has to be the biggest mover here. He was projected to finish last in the entire league, 10th,
Wow, okay.
and moves up 6 spots to the 4 spot. So, great job, Mark. Proud of you. What a season by you to, do ESPN projections really mean that much? I don't know, maybe. But regardless, they had you at 10 and you finished 4. So great job. Mad Ants were projected 8. So pretty good job by them. 8 to get into that top 5. And then the Do You Jobbers projected 9, up 3 spots to the 6 and to slide into the playoffs. So all 3 of those teams moving their way up. And I'm glad you mentioned it. 6 teams that have never won a championship. And it's crazy to think about. I didn't realize that 4 teams held all the D-League championships. I didn't realize that until we thought about it. I think on the last podcast is where we put 2 and 2 together there. So yeah, Chuck, Mudge, Josh, Justin were the only 4 teams in the league that have a championship. And in this year, that's going to change.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get some new blood. But rounding out these power rankings, we'll just quickly go through the last 4, and I'll let you give us what they were projected at the beginning of the year. But
7, I exited out of it. Can't lie.
7.
Sorry, guys.
All good. 7, we get the crumb bums. Real quick on the crumb bums, Chuck, I'm sorry. I'm sorry the podcast curse hit you. I don't know what happened, but we got you on here. We hailed you the number 1 spot, and it was just downhill after that. Never quite seen a fall like that. Very unfortunate, very unlucky. Hopefully the Vikings, their season goes the same way, to be honest with you. As a Lions fan, I hope their season goes like that. But for the crumb bums, you hate to see it. But enough with that. There's always next year, Chuck. At 8, we got the Dust Balls, 9, the Warriors, and 10, the Sliders. All teams that are former champs. You can relish on that. But this year, you're going to be looking forward to next year's draft during the playoffs.
Yeah, I feel bad for Chuck. I feel bad for Mudge too. But honestly, Mudge just had a really, really poor finish to the season. Yeah. He had a chance multiple times to clinch it and just couldn't get it done. So, tough way to finish for him, and a really tough way to finish for Chuck after a run that put him to the number 1 spot. He had 4 or 5 weeks in a row as like a top 2 scorer, and then all of a sudden fell off a cliff. And I do apologize if it was because of us. You should have never agreed to come on the podcast knowing that the podcast curse exists. So sorry, Chuck. Sorry, Mudge, Justin, Josh. Better luck next year. Sorry,
last week we did have Ashton on, and this week he put up 74 points. So maybe the podcast curse is real. Maybe when we do the awards at the end of the year, we'll have to go back and see how everyone fared the week after coming on the pod. But that's it for the power rankings. Let's move on to round 1 matchups. And we didn't rig this. Going into this year, you would think this whole year was rigged. Year 10, we do a podcast. All this crazy stuff happens throughout the year. 6 new champs potentially. And round 1, we get a Dieterle Bowl and a Mauser Bowl. We'll start with the Dieterle Bowl. I'll let you give a little preview of this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good game. 2 teams that really finished out the year strong. I won 4 of my last 5, I think. I don't remember how many of his last 5 Trent won, but a pretty strong finish to the season, if I remember right. We split head-to-head regular season. First matchup, Trent got the best of me. Second matchup came down to Monday Night Football, Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. I ended up squeaking one out there against Trent. So 1-1 on the season. And what better way to have a tiebreaker than in round 1 of the playoffs? I mean, you can't really script it better than this.
No.
I mean, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm curious to see what Trent does with his lineup. Does he ride with Brock Purdy? Does he slide Mahomes back in? My lineup, honestly, isn't going to see a lot of tinkering or tweaking. I think we're just going to ride with who we have, who's got us here, and who's played well the last few weeks, and we'll see what happens. It should be a good one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. The winner of this matchup will take on yours truly. And hopefully for the pod's sake, I'm hoping you win and we can get a little pod semifinal matchup. That would be awesome for the viewers. But wait till next week.
I'm exempt from the pod curse, right? Because I'm on it every week. So
you have to be. We both have to be.
I'm going to go grab my phone. Let me call up Trent, see if he wants to make a quick guest appearance on here. We need him. I think I'm exempt from the pod curse, so hopefully we don't see that happen. But should be a good matchup. And one other matchup in the playoffs this week. Another Mauser Bowl. Like you said, we couldn't have asked for a better script. And what's funny is Mark swept Jake in the regular season, and you remember what Mark said when he was on the podcast, and I'll tell you what, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. And so with Mark going 2-0, I'm sure he let Jake hear about it, but Jake could get the last laugh here.
Yeah, I was about to say, those last 2 wins mean nothing if you lose the playoff matchup. This is for all the marbles. Mark will have a 3-point buffer heading into the game, but the Mad Ants are a team that could go off for 130 plus any week, and I'm looking forward to this one. In our group chat, we already have some back and forth going with the circus and the ant killer spray.
That's funny.
That's been awesome. But yeah, I mean, you would say this is scripted. Two rivalry matchups, not even rival. We got family matchups here in round 1 to kick us off in the playoffs, and 4 teams that I'm really looking forward to see how their players fare this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be intense. I don't even really know what to say. I honestly, if I had to make a prediction, I think just by the way of fantasy football fate, I think Jake takes it. I think that Jake will take going 0-2 in the regular season every single time if it means he can get the one in the postseason. So I don't know. I'm curious. I'm hoping for a good game, both between Trent and I and between Jake and Mark. Two good close games. And honestly, I want to see the 3-point buffer come into play because I want chaos and I love chaos.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't affect me negatively. It might. And if it does, so be it. I made the rules. So if I'm at the mercy of it, then so be it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that does it. Sorry for our folks that are in the ladder. Just doesn't really matter. Start looking for next year's draft. But we want to do a fun little segment here. Wanted to go through everyone's record and see how they would fare against Noah's schedule. Because, I mean, we've been saying it all year. You've been extremely unlucky when it comes to your points against. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I feel like you were like 150 more or something like that than the second most points against. It was let me pull that up actually.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. So there was one other team. Yeah. There's one other team in the 1500s, and then everyone was below that mark. I was over 1600. So not ideal. Definitely not ideal, but honestly, when we went through these numbers, I thought we would see some bigger differences. So maybe the schedule wasn't as big of a factor as we may have initially thought. But let's just run through it. There's a couple teams that I think are funny in here that had they played my schedule, one of them would be ladder bound, and another one probably wouldn't be the number 1 seed in the league. So let's start off with your team. You went. We should have put the original records in here. I guess we can just do some quick math here. You went 10-4 with your schedule. So with mine, you would have went
8-6. Would
not
be the
bad
best record in the league, assuming everyone played your schedule. So I'll take that. 8-6, not an amazing record compared to where I finished, but still would have made the playoffs. And when we were going through this exercise, I was honestly expecting mine to be a little bit worse. Even though I did put up some points this year, I knew you faced some tough opponents. But 8-6, I'll take it. It's definitely not as worse as it could have been compared to some of these other schedules.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that 8-6 is the best record when playing my schedule. Like that's crazy wild to me. But on to the second one, we had Mark's Flying Circus here, finished 7-7 in the regular season. With my schedule, he would have finished 5-9. So 2 less wins. And
would have been out of the playoffs.
Would have been out of the playoffs. So had he played my schedule, would have been out of the playoffs. And I mean, 2 wins may not seem like a lot, but it's the difference between being in and being out. So always interesting to see that.
Yeah, and then we got the Mad Ants. They weren't too big of a mover. They would have finished 6-8 with your schedule, which is only 1 less win, but that would have made the difference, and they would have been in the ladder.
Yep. I mean, 6-8 compared to 7-7 in that gold division was the difference, and they would have been out as well. On to another one. Chuck's Crumb Bums also finished 7-7 this year. With my schedule, would have finished 5-9. So 2 games less than what he finished with. Is out of the playoffs. Would have been out of the playoffs. So two less wins there for him.
Yeah. And then we got the Denver Dust Balls, who finished 6-8. They would have finished 5-9 with your schedule. Sorry, they would have finished 5-9 with your schedule. So that's one less win than their 6-8 actual finish. And I mean, they didn't make the playoffs with their schedule. Wouldn't have made the playoffs with your schedule.
Yeah, not a huge difference there, but Mudge was also number two in points against, so to be expected. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we got the Golden Tate Warriors, who's actually the only team who wouldn't have been affected. He would have had the same record. I think his wins would have came in different weeks, but he would have finished 5-9 regardless of his schedule or Noah's schedule.
Yep.
And then we got the Sliders, with another team, not much movement. I mean, there's not really much room to move with their win total, but he would have finished 2-12, which is one less win than his 3-11 actual finish.
Yeah, as we were going through his, I think we were through what did he start? He started like 0-8, didn't he? Or 0-9. So we were going through, I think we were 9 weeks through and he had no wins. And I'm like, oh my God, is he going to go winless with my schedule? But ripped off. I mean, obviously last week, I think was he the highest scorer in the league?
Yeah, he had to have been. He was.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously going to get that one. But yeah, 2-12 with my schedule, so one worse than what he finished at. But these last two are the real meat and potatoes of who would have been affected by mine. So let's actually start with Turn Your Head and Golf. They finished 8-6. They looked like a really strong team all year. They're a top contender there in the gold division. Had Trent played my schedule, he would have finished 4-10. He would have finished 4-10, and the narrative around his team would be completely different. Trent, why'd you draft 2 Bengals wide receivers? Trent, why'd you do this? 4-10, but he finished with 8 wins having his schedule. That's a huge difference.
That would have definitely made a difference. He would have been bottom of the power rankings in the consolation ladder, but instead he's sitting at the 3 seed in the playoffs, and I mean, thank goodness Trent got his schedule and not yours for his sake.
Yeah, and this is my favorite one, the very last one. Who better than the number 1 seed in the D League, Mr. Ashton Lang, Lang's football team, the powerhouse at 11-3.
Yep.
Had he played my schedule, he would have went 500. He would have went 7-7 this year. All this are people calling him a Tyreek Hill merchant when he's going 7-7?
Is he a schedule merchant? Who knows?
Is Ashton a schedule merchant? Oh my God, we might have just cracked the code. Ashton's a schedule merchant. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, funny to look at that. His team looks so dominant, and he does have a good team. Don't get me wrong.
I think he does have the best team overall.
I do too, but had he played my schedule, 7-7. That's hilarious.
As I say, I think that goes more to show just how unlucky your schedule was. And I mean, you face the top scorer almost every single week, and even the best team in the league would have been 500. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so just a fun segment to look in. Honestly, we're just looking to fill time here because we don't have as much to go through. But really, that does it for us. We'll keep it short and sweet this week. I think just under a half hour, which is very impressive for us because usually we just sit up here and blab. So next week, I mean, obviously a recap of the first round games. You and Ashton will be, sitting back, stress-free Sunday. Yeah, and watching us battle it out. 2 rivalry games in the first round of playoffs. Man, it's going to be awesome. So anything you want to add here before we let the people go?
I'm sorry, producer, but I'm pulling for Noah just so we can next week have that back and forth on the pod heading into a semifinals matchup. I mean, regardless, I'm either going up against you or the producer, Trent. So I'm looking for, we're going to have a pod battle either way. It's just a matter of if it's going to be a host battle or if it's going to be a host versus producer battle. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good week. Very, very much looking forward to the Mauser Bowl as well. And let's get going on some playoffs. I'm ready.
I'm ready. Let's play some fantasy football, man. So thank you everybody for watching. We'll get you out of here. And other than that, best of luck, Trent. Best of luck, Jake. Best of luck, Mark. Let's have some good battles out there. Peace, y'all.
See ya.